I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
Oh, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. Get more with Geico.
Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shirin.
And it's horror for the teens this week.
For the teens.
For the teens. For the youngins.
For the youngins.
For the kids. Not kids, but the middle school to high schoolers.
Yeah.
Roughly. All of that means that we're talking about YA horror specifically this week.
Yay.
Yeah.
We love some YA, don't we?
We do. I feel, especially you, but I feel like both of us have a tendency to gravitate towards it. And we're definitely not the only ones. The number of people that I see in their late 20s to 30s, early 40s who still read like YA stuff, I'm like, yeah.
Because it's fun, because it's all about like the story, like the plot itself.
It's just like automatic nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just like, there's not all this like unloading of like sex scenes and stuff, which take up a lot of space in a plot.
Sometimes they do, yeah.
And you're kind of like, okay, but there's nothing else going on in this book but sex. So at least in YA, like, it's more of a will they, won't they, coming of age.
Agreed.
Like something else going on, you know?
It's true. Yeah, no, it's true. Because this is just a genre that I noticed anyway, and I don't know if you agree, but I've noticed that like it's just consistently popular. It feels like every year we get new YA horror lit that's being published in different subgenres, different types. It could be a slasher, it could be a haunting, it could be all manner of different things, like in terms of the subgenre itself. But it just feels like it's very consistent in its level of popularity. Never seems to dip for any period of time, if that makes sense.
But I think it's to your point. It's the fact that it's made for an audience that's like learning to read or learning to love to read, and it's nostalgic for our age group.
Yeah,
so like,
it's true.
It hits a lot of.
It just it hits that
slaps.
It hits that comfort. Oh my god! It hits that comfort level for multiple generations.
It does.
I agree.
It does, and it's one of those genres that, like, you know, I'm thinking of it now that I have a child. If she were into a book, then I could be like, ooh, I'm gonna read that too, you know. And it's like something you
That's
can kind
true,
of bond
that you
over.
can kind of do together, which is fun. I had some buddy reads like that as a child with my parents a few times, and it's really fun.
Oh, I bet. I never had that, so like I'm excited to do that.
I think that's gonna be really cool for you.
But before we get started, what's on your nightstand?
Okay, so I recently read a novella that I just finished called Coup de Grâce.
Okay.
It is by an author by the name of Sophia Ajram, who's actually a Montreal-based author.
Oh, what up?
Who it's a horror novella, essentially was published in 2024. It follows a character named Vicken. It is set in Montreal as well.
Oh, cool.
So it's always very funny to hear names of metro stations and be like, oh yeah. You know, you just like know things. Because I feel like when I read, I never get that ever. Nothing's ever set here.
No,
so.
I know. Sometimes I've read a couple because I did a Montreal lit class.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was like, hee.
Yeah, it's exactly. That's it. So it follows a character named Vicken. I will give a trigger warning if you are interested in the novel. It's very atmospheric. It's very interesting to read. However, it deals heavily with themes of depression and suicide, particularly, very much. So Vicken is a character who unfortunately has made the decision to end his life, and he has decided to do so by, I believe he wants to jump into the St. Lawrence, from what I remember, which is the really big river that runs beside Montreal, just as a heads up for people who don't know that.
There was quite a problem of people jumping in, actually, to die by suicide. They had to install like railings,
some barriers and stuff, the way that they've had to do with the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and stuff. So that's his plan, until one evening, basically on the day that he's decided to do this, he steps out of the metro or subway station that he's at, and he finds himself in pretty much an endless corridor of looping stations that are underground, that appear to go nowhere. And he basically starts on a like very creepy and very disconcerting sort of descent into like some sort of psychological torment pretty much that ensues.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will say that this is not a book that's going to be for everyone. I really liked the tone of it, the atmosphere of it, and like overall, like the story was very interesting. I personally found that the prose and the way that it's written got to be a little much for me after a while.
You'll love a bit of prose, Megan.
Yes and no. I find it gets a bit like it gets to be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I didn't really love the whole way through, but overall it was a very interesting read. But I will say that obviously it deals with very dark subject matter, so just do keep that in mind. It is not a happy, fluffy, or light, like fun, spooky read. It's not. It is very serious and quite sad.
Okay. Yeah, probably won't pick this one up.
I don't think it's for you.
No. No. On my end, I finished reading one that I wrote a review for on our website called the Oxford Soju Club. That was really fun. Definitely recommend. It's a debut novel. Pick it up, read it. It's a lot of fun. But
another Montreal-based author.
It is.
Hey-o.
Yeah, he is. But the one I'm about to start reading was recommended to me by actually one of our new listeners. Shout out to Mary. She suggested I read the book called Zoo City by Lauren Bukes.
Yeah, I've read a Lauren Bukes book before. I've read The Shining Girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's called Zoo City. And it's more actually aimed at kids, so young adults, I think.
Okay.
Dark fantasy, kind of creepy, reminiscent of the Golden Compass themes.
Oh, interesting.
With animal familiars, but more gritty. It's basically it's about criminals and murderers who acquire magical animals that are mystically bonded to them.
Wow. Okay.
So it sounds really interesting. So I'm gonna get on that and start reading.
Yeah,
that
it does
one.
sound like the Damon's there in
the
Golden Compass, or in his Dark Materials, I should say. In that series. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, Lauren Bukes, the only thing I've read is The Shining Girls. It's very dark. So that's an interesting kind of different story.
Yeah, well, I'll see how this one goes. You might like this
Maybe,
one.
yeah, that's it. Okay, so stepping into the whole idea of obviously young adult or YA horror literature, one thing I will say off the top, for me anyway, that I find that YA really opens the door for is to really allow writers to explore a lot of themes to do particularly with like race, sexuality, and like class divide to a degree. I do feel like sexual fluidity is something that works a lot more on the YA sphere. It feels like it's something that's really blown up in the past like 5-10 years in particular, and that's something that we're seeing a lot more of. And the horror space seems to allow authors to sort of easily explore these themes without it being like it having to be shoved in your face front and center kind of thing, but just allowing characters to have more individual personalities and be able to explore like LGBTQ themes without it being like, haha, see, look, like I have one. It just simply exists on the page.
Yeah, and I have some thoughts around that. So, like, YA fiction is very typically centering around search for identity, coming of age, and so all the elements that you just listed kind of come with that territory. Yeah. So I agree that YA is an excellent avenue for delving into these types of topics.
Yep.
But then when you think about the horror aspect, a lot of horror books, stories are... they're allegory, they're metaphors for a fear or something that is not explainable, something that you're struggling with. And so it makes sense that horror would fit really well into this.
So well.
Coming of age, search for identity, because there's something scary that you don't understand that's happening to you or near you, and you have to try and conquer or overcome it, which translates really well into, deeper issues or, just discovering yourself.
Yeah. No, the idea of coming of age and self-identity and all of those things. Horror is such a good conduit for that across the board. But obviously, as you mentioned, being a young adult means that search for identity is largely what's taking place in your life at that time. You are discovering kind of who you are as an individual. And this is just it's just a genre that opens up all sorts of doors for that and the exploration of the fears in particular surrounding those things.
Yep.
And so it's something that we see. I was jotting down like a few different examples of even more recent releases, because you just see YA horror across a multitude of different subgenres in horror. Like that's something that you see a lot. Like so I know there was one from a couple of years ago, 2023 actually, called You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kaylin Barron. This one is a fun take on like summer camp slashers.
Okay.
So basically it follows a character named Charity. She works at this place called Camp Mirror Lake, and it is an immersive
What was the camp in?
Crystal Lake.
I
Crystal Lake.
see. Okay.
Yeah, it's all play on that. So she works at an immersive like live action slasher experience, basically.
So hang on, just so I understand, the camp is
It's not a
actually
real
intended to be a slasher camp.
Yes. So it's like a horror experience that people pay to go to. It's like a full contact one. You know, like there are those things that exist where people go somewhere to get scared, and it's like a haunted attraction, but they can touch you and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that.
But it's not actually camp.
No.
Okay.
No, but
Sorry,
it's
continue.
because it's based on within like the fiction of the novel, it's based on a film called Camp, like The Curse of Camp Mirror Lake or something like that.
Okay.
So they've taken it and made it into like a live action experience that people pay to go to, and so Charity plays like the final girl character
I see.
in the experience. But of course, while she's working, her colleagues who play the other characters start disappearing. And they start to realize that maybe there's like a real killer around, and maybe there's more truth to the story behind the Camp Mirror Lake film than they originally kind of thought. So her and her girlfriend are basically trying to like survive until the end of the book and like find their way out of this. So it's got like, it's fun because of course, like, you know, it blends a lot of things, like a lot of older, like, you know, very campy stuff, like obviously Friday the 13th, of course, like Mirror Lake, Camp Crystal Lake, blah, Sleepaway Camp, like a lot of those franchises. And it's just like kind of a fun time because it's like a camp slasher, but it's very meta because it's set in like a horror experience. So everybody knows what the tropes are because they're literally playing those tropes as the characters that they're pretending to be while going through the experience.
It sounds like it would be really fun as a movie adaptation.
Oh, definitely.
Like so fun.
This would be a fun movie adaptation. There's this one, if you get into like the maybe partially like paranormal or psychological side of things, there is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This one was published in 2022. It is essentially a modern take on Carrie.
Okay.
So it is set in a still very, very racist small town in Georgia.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Like they're still segregated, like they still
Oh,
act
okay,
like
wow.
like it's
Okay.
very over the top, like it's very intense, and it follows a character named Madison. She lives in this town and she is biracial. However, she's very white passing, and her father is some sort of like religious fanatic and has pretended her entire life that she's white, and she's kept everything very under wraps until a particular incident reveals that she is biracial to her classmates and stuff. She's already bullied. The bullying intensifies like beyond a particular limit. But of course, what no one's aware of is that Maddie has a telekinetic ability.
That's cool.
That, of course, manifests itself and then obviously comes to fruition. And, you know, you've got like the prom setting of this one and everything because it is a remake.
Okay, very Carrie.
No, it is. It's
Okay,
literally a modern.
remake. Okay.
It's a modern take on Carrie.
Okay, so it's not pretending to
Not
be
at all.
anything
No.
other than that.
No.
Okay.
This is a modern take on Carrie. Every description of it indicates this. Like, there's nothing that tells me that Tiffany Jackson says anything different about it either.
And Carrie is such a great like
Coming of
YA
age fucking horror story. Oh, it's so good.
So good because it plays on scenarios that, let's be honest, we've all experienced
Well, because,
as teenagers. Like, you know, if you weren't the one getting bullied, then probably you were either complacent or you were
doing the fucking
it.
bullying.
You know what I mean?
And also just like even if you watch the original film version of Carrie or even the remake. Yeah, the remake does the same thing as well, if I'm not mistaken, but especially in the original version.
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even in the original with Sissy Spacek, basically one of the first scenes, you know, is Carrie, whose mother, again, is a religious fanatic, has never taught her anything. She gets her period in the shower after gym, and all of the girls go fucking ham and like make fun of her and do all of these horrible things to her, and she's like having a full-blown panic attack. She thinks she's dying.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so there's just like there's a lot to explore there about like your body changing
Yeah.
and like your mind kind of shifting along with that, and then of course the bullying, like sort of like her abilities manifesting themselves because of what she's enduring in her life, like all of those aspects of things.
Well, it's so great because like we've all been through that as teenagers, not the telekinetic side,
No.
but like, it's kind of like in the absence of being able to discover your own identity because you are so bogged down with the fact that you're being bullied,
Yes.
that all these things are happening to you, your identity comes out anyway, which
does.
in these cases is your telekinetic abilities. Like that's who Carrie is.
Yes, it manifests itself in this particular way because of the oppression that she suffered in her home life as well, obviously. Yeah, that's it. And I think a lot of us can relate to a lot of aspects of, especially as young women, can relate to a lot of aspects of Carrie from the perspective, even if maybe, you weren't somebody who necessarily experienced a lot of bullying in your life as a younger person. Someone's made fun of you at some point for something.
100%. Like I said, you've either been bullied or
you
were
did the bullying,
complacent.
basically.
Yeah, or you watched it happen and you didn't want to get involved because you didn't want the Eye of Sauron to turn on you.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. And it's self-preservation, and it is understandable. So
It's teenage life.
absolutely. So that one, and then if you get into like another side of like the like kind of dark academia, very like sort of like atmospheric kind of horror side of things, you've got something like Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews.
I think I've heard of this
which
one.
was published in 2024. It's sitting over on my bookshelf right now.
That's probably, I think I just saw it earlier.
It's
I think
over
that's
there.
why.
It's
yeah.
over there. It's kind of a mix of like dark academia and gothic horror to an extent. It basically follows two friends who are at a private school academy type of thing, and their relationship kind of really deepens into like this weirdly kind of toxic and like passionate but very codependent relationship between these two guys. And they also, while also they are dealing with a manifestation, like a physical monster essentially, because one of them is an artist, and he draws like these really dark, really scary sort of like fairy tale type monsters, and the monsters are kind of coming to life in the forest outside of the school.
That's
and so
cool.
they're having to like battle that essentially, while also battling their own coming to terms with their sexuality, coming to terms with the feelings that they have for each other that are reciprocated / not reciprocated in some cases, and the weird that's it codependence that they develop with one another.
It's interesting that that's kind of, and that's something that I don't always think of actually with YA fiction, but
Yeah.
it does appear quite a lot, is the interactions and the friendships and how they can either be very positive and very supportive or very negative and very
Yes.
detrimental.
Yeah.
And that also is part of like coming of age, right? And like that in itself can be quite horrific because we talked about this on another episode, is like, real life horror of things that can actually happen and what that looks like on a step-by-step basis. If you think about it, while you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, if you're surrounded by people who are going to be detrimental or they themselves are the horror in your life, you could be on a path of something
You
else
have no idea.
completely,
Yeah.
and it may not be what you wanted.
Absolutely. 100%.
And it's all about how are you going to handle this situation.
Yeah, that's it. And the choices that you are making now could shift the course of certain things that will happen to you later.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, that's it. I mean, anyway, whatever. There are like tons of ideas of ones, right? There's a book called Horrid by an author named Katrina Leno, which is very like modern gothic haunted house sort of, that's dealing with like past family traumas. There's a book that you've brought up a few times now, The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, that also deals with like grief and PTSD to a degree, and the idea of like a hive mind in like a school and things like that, and like, like sort of like the aspects of those things.
But also being very different.
Yeah.
Being gender non-binary.
That's it.
And then not fitting in anymore, being rejected by the school because of it. Like, that one's a great one.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. There's something like She Is a Haunting by Trang Tan Tran. I'm sure I mispronounced that, which is also like a haunted house one. It's kind of about a young woman who visits her estranged father in Vietnam, and he's working on restoring and renovating this like French colonial house there, and come to basically like find out that there's like sort of like a haunting or some aspect of this house that has to do with like generational traumas and like colonialism in countries like Vietnam and things like that, and like what that has meant for people.
Well, it's interesting because when we were talking about it a minute ago, like the whole search for identity, like if you pile that on top of it being like an American author, every great American novel is about the search for identity, because America is always searching for their own identity. Hey-o, look what's happening right now. And so, like, if you kind of pile that on top of a YA fiction, on top of a horror, then you've got, like, a really great...
You've got a really interesting melting pot of, like, a lot of different themes.
Correct, yeah.
so many that all really, they really work well with one another.
Yeah.
And I think that, I guess what we're seeing kind of now, too, happen is that a lot of these are getting more attention because they're getting adapted, and oftentimes, right? So, like, if I was looking at, like, some from the past, let's say even just 3-4 years, there's Someone Inside Your House, which came out on Netflix. We did an episode about that one, right? Like slasher, small town.
That was fun, actually.
Secrets being kept, a lot of secrets in that one.
Yeah, that one was like Fear Street light.
Very much, yeah. It had that similar kind of vibe to it. You know, there's Someone Inside Your House, Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar, which now is a series that has 3 books. I have read the first one, which got an adaptation that just came out this past in 2025. I want to say maybe in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, which I also watched the film version of. Very, again, like slasher light. Small town set, group of, new girl in town who's the lead character, follows this town that's dealt with like economically like very difficult times, since their main, I guess, like export was a corn syrup factory that they had that shut down years ago, and the teenagers in the town begin falling prey to a killer, a masked killer who is dressed as the mascot of the corn syrup factory, a clown named Friendo. And so Friendo begins to appear and kill the kids in the town, and they're trying to figure out like who the killer is, essentially.
That's like genuinely like a fear, I think, from what I've understood, from like a lot of like rural towns in like North America, because they tend to be focused on like one export.
They've got their one major thing, right? So.
And like generationally, like everybody knows that that's what we do. We go, we work in the factory, we do the thing. But imagine if you shut that down.
Exactly.
That would be like devastating.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting that that sounds like actually something I might enjoy.
It's no, you know what? We should even, the movie's fun. It's it's really good entry level horror stuff for like a younger generation. I love that we're getting a lot of that now.
Me
I feel
too.
like there was a period of time where like we kind of weren't for a while, and you still have those people who will like watch these movies now who are like my age and just be like, that's not even scary. It's not for you.
It's not supposed to be
it's not for you.
It's not supposed to be like leaving you not sleeping at night.
No,
like it's to get people
not
interested
for you. It's for
in
people,
the genre.
It's for people who are like 14 and are like getting into
like
this.
Me.
Yeah, that's it. No, but that's it. People who don't love like the really intense stuff, or people who are like 14 and getting into this. Like this, like it was a fun movie. It would have been a great one for me to watch when I was a teenager. I would have loved it. And then sometimes you do get into
the biggest homeowner mistakes. Do-it-yourself lumberjack. Better leave it to the pros. Doing your own electrical work? The results could be shocking, but letting just anyone replace your windows? Biggest mistake ever. Be a happy homeowner and leave window replacement to the best. The certified master installers at Renewal by Andersen. For a limited time, buy one window or door and get the second 40% off, plus $200 off your entire purchase with special financing. Minimum purchase of 4. Visit renewalbyandersen.com today for this great offer.
Some of the other stuff that we're getting a little bit more of adaptation wise too. Like this had totally slipped my mind. But what was it from this year or last year? But there was an adaptation on Amazon Prime of Grady Hendrix's My Best Friend's Exorcism as well that had come out. That follows its 80s set, which like, love that, top tier.
I had no idea they made an adaptation.
Oh yeah, they did.
Of that.
So it's 80s set, and it follows 2 friends who go with their other group of friends onto like out to like a lake house for the weekend. When they come back, the main character starts to realize that her best friend is acting weirdly because they do have an incident while they're there. She's acting strangely. 2022. God, that was a while ago. Okay. She's acting strangely and not behaving like herself, and the lead comes to realize that her best friend has been possessed and she needs to have her exorcised in order to save her, essentially, before she destroys herself and everything around her, pretty much. I love the book. It's wonderful. It was the first Grady Hendrix book that I read, and I really, really liked it. And it kind of set me off on like a kick and of everything. So that's it. Like, but we're just getting, it's so cool because we're getting all sorts of different types of adaptations of these stories now, which is so fun. And it's for like a new generation of people who are slowly but surely becoming maybe interested in these things, and like they're like, where do I start with this? And it's so great to have these stories being adapted now that it gives them something to go out and like start with.
Well, I remember being a kid, back in the day when we used to have video stores. Remember that, people? Remember going to pick out your movie on a Friday night?
Remember Blockbuster?
Anyway, I remember, being younger and kind of ambling over to the horror section just out of curiosity. And it was always like, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's just because my mom was very British. And,
oh, God, yeah.
But it was always like, oh, horror is like kind of for the weirdos and the freaks, and like, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole and like, stay away from that. And like, you're going to like become a no one if you get into that. Like, it was really weird. Wow. Like, the whole attitude towards it was very like, oh, we don't go near there. Like, that's not for us,
I cannot relate to this.
No,
in any capacity.
I know.
Because if that's the case, I grew up with a weirdo / freak for a mom, if that's the case, and we very much were just like, let's go over to the horror section. What do you want to watch?
Well, this is it. Like, my husband, he had a nanny growing up who was from Argentina, and like, he was allowed to watch whatever the hell he wanted because she had no idea. And so, like, he would just make shit up and get her to, like, rent these movies and stuff for him. So he saw everything. Like, he was all into it. But, like, for me, it was like, no, you don't touch that. Like, you don't look at horror. So, the most I would have had was, I think I read Coraline when I was 9 because I was always into, like, the spooky ooky stuff.
And it's, like, it's horror fantasy sort of, like, kind of combination, right? So.
And I think that was, like, the first adventure I had into this type of genre.
Yeah.
Because Neil Gaiman wrote it for young kids.
Yeah, it's not written for adults.
It's not even young adult fiction. It's like tween, like
it's like middle grade almost. Yeah.
And I remember being super freaked out with it, but I loved it.
Yeah, so absolutely. Oh, 100%.
So it's great that we have so many more options.
I love
now,
that we're getting
and it's more of a range of what we have.
I agree. Okay, so just to kind of like, I guess, wrap things up in general, I've got a couple of like rapid fire questions for you. So, okay, firstly, why do you think that YA novels are such a popular conduit for horror?
Oh, it's like I said, I think it's just a really, like when you're reading a YA novel, whether you're a young adult yourself or whether you're like an older, person, like whether you're like a grown up, I don't know.
If you're old like us, yes, correct.
Like old fogey like us. If you're getting into it, like I said, like you're really into it for the plot, but also the whole coming of age aspect and the character interactions. And I think horror really lends itself to just being a great metaphor or representation of something, of a thing.
Yeah.
Because if you read any horror story or watch any horror movie, there's like a message at the end of it, really, you know, and it's like, and that's why I think it's such a great genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that like, okay, so the idea of that's it, I guess the message and like the certain level of like that identity search and like finding answers to things like that, is that what you find, I guess, sets them apart from like horror novels for adults, let's say?
Yes, because it's almost like with the YA, you've got this, let's say, child, just for all intents and purposes, who is just still brand new. They're still exploring their surroundings, their world, and this thing is happening to them. Whereas when they're adults, they are very sure of themselves most of the time. Like, that's not part of the story, who the person is. You know, it's like, okay, we know that this is so-and-so. That's not actually part of the story, really. Like, it's more like, okay, person A has blonde hair, person B has brown hair, and then this is the horror of what's going on. Whereas in YA, it's like, hey, this is Megan. She's going through a really rough time at school. She's being bullied.
Right, yeah.
And now this other thing comes in, but we're more focused on Megan and how she's going to react to what's happening because it has a direct impact on her development as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. That all makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Really, like, I don't think that I have anything else to add particularly. I do think that I think it's going to continue. I think that this genre, it's discounted so often
I agree.
by like major critics, which I find insane. Just like the horror genre as a whole.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people don't love having an uncomfortable lens put up to the way that humanity behaves in a lot of instances. They don't like it, and so they reject it on principle.
Well, because horror is often like a very exaggerated version of
Yes,
what's going
exactly.
on too. Like you talked about the long walk, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, there are just aspects of that are a hop, skip, and a jump away from happening.
100%, like,
and
it's
it
a
makes
warning.
people uncomfortable. And so I think that people have a negative reaction to that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I think that it's something, but I think, like in contrast to that, I think that it's what younger audiences crave. It's certainly something that I wanted growing up. And so I think that it's something that we're going to continue to see flourish for probably years to come, honestly.
I would be very interested to see if any of these books are going to make school curriculums.
I wonder if we're ever going to get...
That's what keeps going through my mind as we're talking about these as like YA.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like I'm listening to you like give the synopsis of a lot of these,
Sure,
and
yeah.
I'm like, that would be great to have in a school curriculum.
Yeah, like what an interesting idea.
But I don't know if they would go that far.
I doubt it somehow. We are very behind in our curriculums that we use in North America as
yes,
a
ma'am.
whole. And so I don't see us getting there anytime soon. However, I agree. I think that it would be a fascinating topic to take a look at from the perspective and to really open that discussion with people who are the age of the characters in that story.
Yes.
So.
Like, what do they think? You know?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Anyway, so many things to think about and explore. We will be obviously coming back next week with more hopping into the horror side of things because this is just the best month of the year and I love it so much.
It's wonderful.
In the meantime, obviously, feel free to follow us on our socials and everything at FullyBookedCA. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, all the things. Just search for FullyBookedCA. But until next week, guys, keep on reading. Thanks, everyone.
The biggest homeowner mistakes. Do-it-yourself lumberjack. Better leave it to the pros. Doing your own electrical work? The results could be shocking, but letting just anyone replace your windows? Biggest mistake ever. Be a happy homeowner and leave window replacement to the best. The certified master installers at Renewal by Andersen. For a limited time, buy one window or door and get the second 40% off, plus $200 off your entire purchase with special financing. Minimum purchase of 4. Visit renewalbyandersen.com today for this great offer.